We have taken the English football pyramid and flipped it completely upside down. That means the Premier League teams are all the way down in League Two. They still have all their players and their money and their facilities, but they've got a long way to go. And in their place, a Premier League made up of the 20 worst teams from the 4th Division of England, League Two. So who are you backing to win? Barrow? Bromley? It's gotta be Harrogate Town. That's a real place. We're gonna simulate 10 seasons and see how many teams in the Prem, the League Two teams, hang on to their spot, and how many Premier League teams are able to make it back up. With 3 relegations per season, it should take about 7 seasons for all of these League Two teams to get ejected from the league. But in the meantime, 4 of these teams are going into the Champions League, and right now, it's Colchester running away with it, with AFC Wimbledon, awkwardly MK Dons right behind them, and Notts County bringing up the rear. My Harrogate Town pick looking pretty good as they're taking up 5th position in the league. The leading goal scorer, of course, in the Premier League is Samson Tavide. But all 20 of these teams are getting massive Premier League paychecks. Even Bromley, who has 7 points from 12 matches up to this point, so it's going well. Colchester's been really dominant though, including massive wins like beating Swindon Town thanks to beautiful goals like this from Samson Tavide. No nonsense. Of course, the inversion is complete with the championship being comprised of the entirety of League One, and Peterborough right now is in the fast lane for promotion to the Premier League. In League Two, some drama is developing because there is something that I did not consider. 2 of these teams, out of the 24 teams made up of all Premier League teams and the 4 best teams from the championship in real life, are gonna get relegated out of the Football League. Right now, that looks like Sunderland and Nottingham Forest, which it's not quite how that played out in real life. The fast track teams seem to be Chelsea, Liverpool, and Tottenham as they are sailing away with 38, 36, and 36. Everton, West Ham, Arsenal, and Aston Villa are all hanging on, but teams like Manchester City are struggling, particularly with the fact that a lot of their team is going on international duty and the league doesn't acknowledge that in the scheduling. But nobody's doing worse, really, than Manchester United. And I don't mean to pile on here, but they only have 17 points. That's probably because they are involved in European competition while trying to deal with all of this. And so is Manchester City. I was kind of gaslighting you. They've only played 13 matches. But the fixture congestion of playing Europe out of League Two is difficult. As the first season comes to a close, it is our new gods, Colchester United, that have taken home the inaugural Premier League crown. And Harrogate Town, Gillingham, and Notts County are headed to the Champions League. That means, yes, Matty Daly will be playing Champions League football, unless, of course, these teams start to use the millions of dollars that are raining down on top of them to improve their squad. I mean, think about how much money you get for finishing in the top 4 in the Prem, and then the Champions League money coming in after that. His transfer window is about to be aggressive. The bottom of the table had huge turnover, but our leaders in the clubhouse to make it back down to League Two are Newport County, Chesterfield, and Accrington Stanley, who have been yeeted straight down into the championship. Of course, every team that isn't those 3 will maintain their Premier League spot for next season. Let's check on the other end of the table. Well, not the table, but more you get it. Manchester United and Manchester City pulled off a miraculous recovery, and they joined Tottenham and Liverpool in going up to League One after, well, a victory by Manchester United in a playoff with Chelsea, Arsenal, and Aston Villa. The final was pure dominance from Manchester United, maybe a sign of good things to come, and a hat trick from Bruno Fernandes. See, I am trying to cheer you up and make you forget all about that final you lost to Tottenham, which, dang it, I reminded you again. Sorry. But it turns out it doesn't matter if you play the league with a League Two schedule or with a Premier League schedule. Liverpool's the best team, but Chelsea, Arsenal, and everybody else is going to be playing in League Two again next season. They won't be joined by Sunderland, who managed a raucous 14 points in the 46-game season. They won 3 games. Thanks for playing. Burnley has also gone down, so it was 2 of the 4 championship clubs that were yeeted out of contention, while Sheffield United and Leeds put together a way more respectable performance, even though they're going to be playing here again. You might notice something else, though. Newcastle is headed to the Conference League. That's because, weirdly, just like real life, they won the EFL Cup final, beating Arsenal. You can change the leagues, but the cups still work the same way, so Newcastle has managed to qualify for Europe again out of League Two. Liverpool took the FA Cup, so they're also in Europe on their climb up, which should help them maintain money and prestige. Very important. But year 2 is going to give us a whole different feel because because we're going to get 3 League One teams in the Prem. Are they still going to be able to separate after a year of all these teams getting Prem money? And the answer is yes, because Blackpool, after 21 matches, is top of the Premier League. And really, the League Two clubs still weren't able to reload that aggressively. Maybe their reputation hadn't recovered enough, but the biggest transfer was $8 million of James Morris from Watford to Tranmere Rovers. Salford also bought Jack Clark from Sunderland for over $6 million up front, and Callum Britton went from Blackburn to Peterborough. Tottenham sold Dennis Sirkin to Colchester United, but they've got to survive up here for a few years to be able to spend that money. And unfortunately, our heroes from Harrogate Town, who I picked, are battling against relegation after 21 matches, while Bromley and Salford have promptly wasted their Premier League opportunity, and the class of 92 isn't doing Salford proud here. Joining Blackpool in the top 4 is Peterborough and Bolton. That would be all 3 League One teams in the top 4. I'm going to cut Harrogate some slack though, because they are playing in the Champions League, and I'm going to be honest, they're doing better than I would have thought. They've drawn against Partizan, they've drawn against Ferencvaros, and they also drew against Dinamo Kyiv. But the most surprising European result might be this one. Colchester United played Fenerbahce and beat them 2-0 in the Champions League. They also drew Atlanta. Colchester is here to stay, baby. If anybody from League Two has a chance to stay up, it's these guys. Notts County and Gillingham have only mustered 1 point. Colchester actually has a chance to make it to the Champions League knockouts with 2 matches to go. The problem was those matches were against AC Milan and Real Madrid, and they didn't. Although they did get a draw. They drew Milan with a goal from Jerry Yates. Checking in on the Premier League teams in a jumbled up League One, all 4 of them are running top and on a missile back to the Prem. Their ability to hang on to more of their players than I would have assumed they could hang on to has been a big contributing factor, as Erling Haaland leads League One with 31 goals this season. Even Rasmus Højlund can score here. He's found his level. Sorry, Rasmus. In League Two, the next set of teams trying to get out are Arsenal, Fulham, and Chelsea, with Aston Villa, Brentford, Newcastle, and Nottingham Forest trying to power their way through. Forest Green, of course, was just promoted up from the 5th division to unfortunately figure out that they would be playing an away day against Arsenal. Didn't really think it through for those guys. That kind of sucks. The second season comes to a close with a Blackpool victory, though Colchester has managed to launch itself back into European play, as well as MK Dons and Carlisle. But the 3 League One teams literally went 1-2-3, while Barrow, Bromley, and Salford are now on the way down. If we take a look at the championship, we will actually find, though, that none of the 3 Premier League teams that are receiving those payouts have actually been relegated. So they might be able to survive not going all the way back down to League Two. The closest one was Accrington Stanley, who finished in 20th, but it was Chesterfield, Walsall, and Burton Albion that are headed back down to League One. While Luton, Hull, and Cardiff will probably be the 3 best teams in the Prem next year, just based off size. It matters. From League One, we had Liverpool go through as champions with 125 points, Manchester United right behind them with 122, and then a playoff of Manchester City, Tottenham, Norwich, and Blackburn. Obviously, City and Tottenham blasted their way into a final, but Tottenham is apparently on the all-time hot streak because they've managed to qualify over Manchester City for a one-way ticket to the championship. Despite 49 goals from Erling Haaland, Man City will stay in League One. Then, of course, there is League Two. The Premier League teams desperate to get out. Arsenal, Chelsea, and Fulham have done that, while Aston Villa, Newcastle, Brentford, and Brighton head into a playoff. The final was Brighton-Newcastle, and it is Newcastle that will head up to League One. They continue their effort to be Premier League teams that get all the way up. I'm sad as we leave year 2, as we might have seen already the last League Two winner of the Prem, Colchester United. In year 3, the unthinkable happens. The legends themselves, Colchester United, get relegated. The Prem is won by Luton Town, who have completed their 2nd comeback in nearly as many years, with Blackpool, Bolton, and Hull City making up the top 4, while Fleetwood and MK Dons of former League Two fame get into Europe again. But Colchester got relegated with Morecambe and Cheltenham. That's horrible. So what is Cardiff doing? The Champions League gave us some disappointing performances. Colchester and Peterborough near the bottom. Peterborough had 0 points. Blackpool finished 30th. And then you zoom out a little bit and you see that Bolton finished 8th. They finished ahead of Real Madrid with Job Bellingham starting at striker. Probably because they have guys like Morgan Gibbs-White. Purchased for just $16 million from a hapless Nottingham Forest down in League Two, But the transfer of talent is starting to occur. We have Bolton making Champions League knockouts. Now, they did get put to the sword 9-2 by Benfica in the round of 16, but that's a lot of prestige and money that's coming in for Bolton. Keeping track of our League Two teams that might fall all the way from the Prem, Salford has now progressed down to League One with a last place relegation in the Championship. While, as you can see, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Manchester United have completed their quest back to the Prem, and they are the first 3 teams from the Prem to make it all the way back after 3 seasons. Let's just be honest, we kind of expected. Don't want to skimp on Newport County down at the bottom either. They are also a League Two team that has now achieved a second relegation. In League One, Man City did avenge its previous defeat to join Chelsea and Arsenal in the Championship. Fulham and Newcastle will have to wait another year. But who is still stuck? Well, less and less teams every year, because Brighton, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa have made it out, while Leicester backdoored a playoff with Nottingham Forest, Leeds, and Everton to make it up to League One. And at this point, you have to ask yourself, is Jamie Vardy still playing? Because I feel like this would be something he'd be capable of. But Brentford, Wolves, West Ham, Southampton, Bournemouth, Ipswich, I guess, Everton, all still stuck in League Two. It is year 4, at long last, where the Premier Leagues returned and asserted their dominance. Tottenham, of course, the team out of Manchester United, Liverpool, and Tottenham that you would expect to win the league, has risen first back to the throne. It was Colchester, Blackpool, Luton, and then Tottenham, joined by United and Liverpool in the Champions League spots, and of course, Fleetwood Town, naturally. The relegation includes 3 more teams from League Two. Unfortunately for us keeping track of those, Tranmere Rovers, AFC Wimbledon, and Swindon Town could not take advantage of their money like Carlisle or Fleetwood or MK Dons. There's also still Grimsby Town, Harrogate Town, Notts County, and Gillingham, all from League Two, still kicking around in the Prem. We are, however, starting to see some of these teams show staying power. Of course, Liverpool and Tottenham had the 3 biggest transfers, but you know who had the 4th? Freaking Carlisle. They bought Totti from Crewe Alexandra for $43 million. Is he worth that? No, but at least they have that to spend. Grimsby Town bought Amario Kosher-Dewberry from Colchester, of all teams, for a whopping $30 million. And MK Dons splashed $23.5 million on James Hill from Colchester, but also Matthias Sula from Juventus. Everybody always talks about that Juventus to MK Dons pipeline. It's really opened up recently. So while we have lost a lot of good League Two soldiers, after 4 years, there are still ones holding on. And ones particularly like Fleetwood that seem like they're thriving. This is a Fleetwood Town team that has Yerson Mosqueda, Taylor Harwood Bellis. They've even poached quasi-wonder kids like Zidane Iqbal, who they're paying $2 million a year, by the way. Did I just see Yusuf Poulsen? I did just see Yusuf. They got Yusuf Poulsen for free? Sure, why not? The Championship, of course, sees 3 more Premier League teams return, with Chelsea, Arsenal, and Manchester City storming the Bastille. Nicholas Jackson leading the way with 26 goals. Barrow has joined the party of teams to get relegated twice in 24th, but Leyton Orient and Port Vale aren't League Two teams, so we don't care. But did anybody get relegated all the way? And you could probably tell where this was going, because Salford City have been terrible, and they are now the first team to go all the way from the Prem right back down to League Two, and they might not be done there. But they are joined, rather unfortunately, by Newport County, who came out on the ass end of a 3-way tie. Meanwhile, Newcastle, Brighton, and Fulham have gone up to the Championship, giving themselves an opportunity to get back to the Prem. But who is still unbelievably stuck? Well, that would be Southampton, Bournemouth, and Nottingham Forest, because Brentford, West Ham, and Everton got automatic promotions this year, and they're finally out, while Wolves won the playoff. Well, I would like to give a shout out. Sunderland has made a dramatic reappearance out of the 5th tier, and they are now competing again in League Two. Go them. So we have 6 Premier League teams that have returned, and we have 2 League Two teams that have returned. But as we reach the halfway point, it's time to see who might have staying power. And the answer was not Grimsby Town or Notts County. That's 2 more League Two teams we can cross off the list. They have been relegated. relegated. Hull City also got sent back down. They finished below Gillingham and Harrogate Town, who have managed to survive another season. There's also, of course, Fleetwood in 10th, MK Dons in 9th, and Carlisle United in 8th. This is year 5, and Carlisle is still getting European play. Oh yeah, Tottenham won the league again. I don't really know what to do with that other than say apparently we are in the Tottenham era. Chelsea, United, City, Liverpool completed the top 5, with naturally Blackpool finishing just ahead of Arsenal. You know, we're really in the upside down because Rasmus Højlund led the league in goals with 25. Now don't worry, Carlisle didn't win any cups. This just happened because the Premier League is now returned to a top 2 league status and gets an extra spot. Except if you have a very discerning eye, you'll notice that their name says Europa League next to it. Not Conference League as it should be in 8th, but Europa League. And if they didn't win a domestic cup, that's right, baby! Carlisle United won the Europa Conference League. This is what the Conference League is all about. They finished 7th in the league stage, which gets them a bye straight to the round of 16, where they play Slovan Liberec and beat them 5-3. In the quarterfinals, they take on Boa Vista and put together a big road win, 5-3 on aggregate. Then the semifinals, where the difficulty goes from easy to very hard. But they beat Atlanta 3-2. And in a dramatic final against Borussia Mönchengladbach, they go behind early. And you're thinking the Germans, who of course have been in the Bundesliga a lot longer than Carlisle's been in the Prem, are going to take it from there. But in their first, I think it's safe to assume their first European final, Carlisle answers back in the 22nd minute. And then as the second half starts, they find a second goal. And just moments later, the football gods favor the bold from League 2. And we have created a monster. We've created a Carlisle United team that are champions of Europe. You'll never sing that. So while there are only 5 League 2 teams left in the Prem, it's safe to say that League 2 has already won. For the first time, we don't have all Premier League teams getting promoted out of the Championship as things start to become more and more difficult for them. Newcastle and Brighton made it, but Huddersfield won a playoff that Fulham was in. And we also had a relegation out of the Championship that included 0 former Premier League teams, as in League 2 teams. Cambridge, Wickham, and Shrewsbury, none of those were in the Prem at the start. Accrington Stanley's managed to seemingly finish 20th every single time, but they're not getting relegated. They're holding their own. Unfortunately, the same could not be said in League 1, where Barrow continued its fall down back to League 2 to join Newport County and Salford City as the 3 teams that have been relegated all the way. Villa, Crystal Palace, and West Ham continued their quest up the table. Fortunately for League 2, though, we had 0 League 2 teams get relegated out of the Football League. Salford finally found its level and finished 17th. And we have reduced the battle of Premier League teams stuck in League 2. After 5 years, Ipswich and then Bournemouth in the playoff out of 7th managed to get out, meaning Southampton and Nottingham Forest are having a suck-off down in League 2 to see who's the last Prem team standing. Also, Leeds and Sheffield United went up, so good for them. 2029 brought with it more bad news, and after 6 years, my pick, Harrogate Town, has finally succumbed. They have gone down with Crewe and Huddersfield to the Championship, leaving us with 4 teams. Carlisle, and then Gillingham, MK Dons, and Fleetwood, who are all dangerously close. City returned to the top of the league, and we have, for the first time, a full Premier League top 8, as the Premier League is returned to kind of establish itself. Accrington Stanley joined 2 non-League 2 teams, at least League 2 teams that were in the Prem, in going down, so their long watch has ended. While Villa, West Ham, and Wigan have gone up to the Prem. It's starting to get a little weird. League 1's given us a promotion of Leicester and Brentford, along with Birmingham, leaving teams like Everton and Bournemouth sitting firmly mid-table. But no more League 2 teams were relegated. And that is entirely because in this season, there were 0 former Premier League teams in the entire league, for whatever reason. But next year there will be Accrington Stanley. But I know what you really care about, the suck-off. And we do not have an answer, because both Southampton and Nottingham Forest got out of League 2. So they are tied for last. Also, Sunderland has been promoted up to League 1. Great for them after getting ejected from the Football League to start. Now, Salford, they're teetering, but we still haven't had a League 2 team fall all the way out. I'm just sad, though, because we are down to 4. It's gonna be close. If anybody's got hope, it's Carlisle. Carlisle. But before we leave season 6 in the past, I would just like to show you a match. The Europa League final. Blackpool against Carlisle United. Now, I don't know what witchcraft and wizardry Carlisle United has been putting on to be able to get here, but they got all the way to the final. And Blackpool grabbed it with 2 goals. I mean, this is insane. They beat Fiorentina and Eintracht Frankfurt in the semi-final. The quarterfinal was actually Sparta Prague and Stade Rennais, but I mean, come on. They beat PSV 6-1. That Premier League money is real, brother. It is real. They beat Gladbach again in the round of 16. Carlisle, leave them alone. Carlisle was a goal away from Champions League football. Season 7, and things are getting scary for the League 2 boys. We've lost 2 more soldiers. Fleetwood and MK Dons, despite the big spending, are down, along with Wigan. But yeah, Gillingham survives to fight another season, but with 3 seasons to go, it looks like all of our hopes are pinned on Carlisle United, holding down the fort. They, of course, weren't in Europe this year, so. Blackpool was. They were in the Champions League, and they got to the playoff round before losing 2-1 on aggregate to Benfica. A Champions League run that included, yes, a 3-1 win at home against Real Madrid. Tottenham has returned to the top of the league, which, sure. We did lose 1 League 2 team from the championship. It was Bromley, while Leicester, Brentford, and Crystal Palace have completed their journey back to the Prem. Ipswich was joined by Stoke and Norwich as it continued its attempted climb, leaving teams like Everton, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth. I mean, they're still looking for a way up. But remember when I said, you probably remember it was a very striking sentence, that the suck-off had ended. Well, it turns out it hadn't. Nottingham Forest got relegated back down to League 2. Boy, they are lucky they have real life, because this simulation is not being kind. But I'll tell you what, we have still not had another team from the Prem at the beginning get relegated all the way down. Right now, it's just Barrow, Salford, and Newport County. And for the first time in the whole experiment, we have no Premier League teams getting promoted out of League 2, with just Burnley from the original League 2 being sent up in first place. 3 seasons to go, 2 League 2 teams hanging on. We lost another soldier. Come on. Gillingham goes down in 18th ahead of Brentford and Cardiff, but they are down by a point. Carlisle is it. They're the ones hanging on. They got 42 points, but they're slipping. Blackpool's become a legit team. They finished ahead of Arsenal this year, and Tottenham won their 4th league in 5 years. But our final team, all that's left, Carlisle United. A Premier League team has joined the ranks, with Fulham jumping back into the Prem alongside Hull and Norwich. But I want to give a shout out, because Colchester made it into the playoff. We might be in a situation where we have a team get promoted back to the Prem. All those parachute payments finally coming good. But we did have a team get relegated as well. Morecambe, they went down in the last, and the Shrimps are going to be hanging on in League 1. Meanwhile, no more Premier League teams got promoted out of League 1, meaning Derby County, Swansea, and Bristol City have the honor. But we do have a 4th team relegated, Bromley. They went down in 23rd. They were joined, of course, by the team they finished ahead of, Bournemouth. We now have 2 Premier League teams that have fallen back into League 2. I didn't have that prediction written down. But it is in League 2 that I want to give an absolutely massive shout out. Well, 2. 1, Salford's gotten promoted back out. They have broken free. They have exchanged with Bromley to keep the same number of League 2 teams at the bottom. And that means that, yes, Nottingham Forest is stuck. They finished 17th. But really, all the pressure is on Carlisle. 2 seasons to go. Can they stay? And can somebody get promoted to join them? And the answer is a resounding yes. Carlisle finished 12th. Leicester, Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace got relegated. Manchester City bounced back and won the league, and Blackpool managed to stay in Europe once again, but Carlisle United is still here, and they are going to be joined by not 1, but 2 resurgent League 2 teams of the former glorious League 2 Premier League that are coming back. Fleetwood Town and MK Dons finished 1-2 in the championship. They actually were right next to Harrogate and Colchester, who could get promoted up in the final year. I don't know if that counts, but my goodness, they look good. And no more League 2 teams got relegated. I think we've reached a point of stabilization, actual stabilization. Ipswich was the only Premier League team, original Premier League team, that was in this group, and they finished dead last. There are in fact a ton of League Two teams in the championship right now. Not only Fleetwood, MK Dons, Harrogate, and Colchester, but also Tranmere, Gillingham, Swindon Town, Notts, Crewe, Grimsby, somehow not Barnsley, even though it definitely sounds like they should be. So hopefully for their sake, nobody let them down in League One, and that did not happen, even though Cheltenham got close. We haven't mentioned them much, but they nearly got sent down to League Two. Everton, Sunderland, and Stoke got promoted, so Everton all of a sudden's looking like far from the worst Premier League team. But the worst news came in League Two, because for the first time, we lost a brother. Bromley has gone all the way from the Premier League to out of the Football League entirely. And that means League Two did lose one soldier. But on the flip side, Barrow did grab an automatic promotion spot back up. Checking in on Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, neither got promoted. So there are two Premier League teams still in League Two. And there are three League Two teams now in the Prem. League Two's got a chance to win this. That's unbelievable. The final year. We lost Carlisle in the last year. No! The one team that had been up for all 10 seasons gets sent down in the final season. MK Dons and Fleetwood survived, but they had to go down and get promoted back up. I would like to give a huge shout out to the new gen on Newcastle named Anthony Martial, who came into the game in the first year and Newcastle bought for 78 million. Maybe that'll help ease the pain of watching Carlisle United be the final team that stayed up the whole time go down. But Fleetwood and MK Dons have finished the challenge in the Prem, and they were joined by three more teams: Tranmere, Barnsley, and Harrogate Town. That's three for... No, it's not. See, I got fooled by Barnsley again. Barnsley wasn't one of the 20, but Tranmere and Harrogate Town means we finish this challenge with 4 League Two teams in the Prem, even though Carlisle is not one of them. Wimbledon got relegated, but going down to League One doesn't really matter. What matters is going down to League Two, and that's where our former Premier League teams really fumbled the bag on the final season, because Morecambe, Cheltenham, and Accrington Stanley got sent down to League Two in the final year. They did so well. Wolves and Southampton got out, meaning the only Premier League team stranded in League One is Ipswich Town. But it's League Two, where we find the two most disappointing teams in the entire challenge, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, that finish where they started, in the bottom half of the table in League Two. And those 3 relegations really hurt, because outside of those relegations, and of course the loss of Barrow all the way down to the 5th division, that was it for the teams that League Two had down, which means they had 4 teams that fell all the way. The Premier League, just for reference, had, well, 10 of the 20 teams make it all the way up and stay in the Prem. So the real winner here, the real winner, has got to be these League Two teams. That former Prem, they had 4 teams finish in the Premier League thanks to those 2 promotions. They were turning the tide. If I kept this going, there would be more coming back. I'm sure even Barrow would come roaring out of the 5th division all the way back to the Premier League. I am a true believer in League Two supremacy. But what's the most important lesson we learned out of all of this? There will always be one Anthony Martial in the Premier League.